Have you ever considered getting a will, but you don't know how, or you thought it may be too expensive? This is going to be an episode for you. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Heart-Centered Money Conversations. My name is Plahuta, and I'm an emotional clearing practitioner, and I have Kristen Mabee here with me for this series, who's a financial coach here in Ontario. And so the last episode that we did was all about RESPs and scholarship trusts. So if you haven't checked out that episode, go back and watch it if that interests you. And so more about wills. So a will will protect your family in the event of your death. And if you don't have a will, your assets will actually go to your estate, which can cause some issues. So very excited to dive into this topic because it's something that I'm currently working on as well for myself to get a will in place now since having Lily. So a little disclaimer about this series, as we have said in all of the episodes, that this is just for educational purposes only, not for advice. And our whole intention with this series is to really just educate you on all of these various financial topics so that you can really understand and have a greater understanding, ask all the questions you want so that you can really wrap your head around how to make the most out of your financial situation that you have going on with you and your family. And without further ado, we'll just hop right into this episode with Kristen about wills. Thanks for being here, Kristen.
Hey, thanks. I'm really excited to, I feel like I say that every time, but I just get
You
excited
do.
about all things finance.
Like wills, it's
Um,
about your death, but we're excited.
it's honestly like it's so important,
Yeah, it is.
and I truly didn't understand how important a will was until Jesse and I did our own. Because basically it just covers so much more than you think. Like a lot of times when we think about wills, it's like who's gonna get my money when I die? It's
Most of the
like
time you're like, I don't care.
yeah,
Whatever.
you're like,
I'm dead.
I'm dead, you figure it out, right? Or
Totally.
I'm broke, like I don't have any money. Like,
Exactly.
but it dives so much deeper into that, right? And so basically what we're going to do today is look at we work with a program called Prepaid Legal or Legalshield, and they do wills. And this is kind of a rundown of kind of what's covered inside of that will package. On average, these programs are about $150. But if you do it, like most lawyers can charge you like, 800 to 1,000 or $2,000 for a will. And so a lot of people ask, like, how can you do it for only $150? And like, it's
Mhm.
kind of like a Costco discount. Like, it's kind of, I look at it like getting it in bulk. So on average, it's about $150, which is amazing. And that's for you and your spouse. Like Jesse and I did both of ours, and it was only about $150, which is fantastic. So what I like to look at is like, what is even in a will? Like, why do I care? Right? Those things. So when you're looking at what's covered in a will, obviously, who gets your money is covered in your will, right? Your investments, but also your retirement benefits, like your pension, if you have a pension. We're going to be doing a whole episode about pensions coming up in 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that one if that's something that might interest you. Real estate, if you own any properties, that's obviously covered in your wills. And then you're looking at any businesses, if you own a business. And then for most people, good and bad debts. So we did a whole episode on debts. If that's something that you're like, what is a good debt? Go check out the debt episode, and you can definitely learn a lot about good and bad debts in there. But a good debt could be something like a mortgage or an RSP loan, things that are going to bring you value, right? But they cover bad debts as well. So those are things more like credit cards or if you owe anybody money, essentially. And then I love the next one because it's looking at your personal effects. So things that hold value to you. So this might be bigger objects like a vehicle or a jewelry collection. I'm like, I own like 5 pieces of jewelry. No jewelry. I'm sure none of it has a lot of value other than sentimental. Uh, so, but things like paintings, or they say like coin collections or stamp collections, or like I feel like people collect a lot of things. I was actually helping my partner the
Pokemon
other
cards. I hear they're going for.
Pokemon cards.
I was like, damn it,
Yeah.
why didn't I keep them?
I know, right? My Beanie Babe collection was like,
Right?
it just didn't work out.
Seriously.
So but like I was helping my partner Jesse, who runs a landscaping business, and I had to go pick up a lawnmower for him. And they had like a little model, it was like a chainsaw or something. It's like this big, it was so tiny. I'm like, do people actually buy these? And they said that they've sold some for over $200. Just like,
Crazy.
I'm like, people collect everything. You like what you like, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
things that you collect, that was fun. So if you have any collections, I'd actually love to hear what kind of collections you have in the comments.
That's awesome. I love it.
So the other thing that they look at is life insurance, of course, is like, once your life insurance is paid out, who's going to get that? Obviously, when you do your life insurance, you have beneficiaries. Same with your investments, you're going to have beneficiaries on most of your investments, but it's really good to put it in your will as well. So the other thing that we look at when you're looking at wills is who's involved. So you'll look at information for your spouse or your partner, your kids from current relationships or even from former marriages or other relationships as well. And then a lot of the times when you're looking at these different options of like who's getting my stuff or even the executor, things like that, they're looking at first, second, and third choices, right? So, say I pick Laura to get my coin collection. I have to start one first, right? But then say, knock on wood, Laura passes away before me. Who then gets that? Who would be kind of next on the list, right? So that's really good because we're not updating our wills all the time. We probably should, but like, let's be real, we're not. Like Jesse and I still need to update our will. So this is a good kick for me to do that.
I'll hold you accountable.
I love that. Thank you. So those are some things to look into is like who's kind of important to you. Jesse and I actually did this together. We kind of sat down, we took a couple hours and we just sat down and went through it and was like, who do you want for this? Who do I want for this? Right? Because it doesn't have to be the same for both of you, of course. And then some of the things that are included is an executor. So basically, if you're not familiar, I'm going to say I'm a financial coach, not a lawyer. So if you do have questions, reach out to a lawyer. Like Legalshield is an amazing organization that they provide all kinds of legal services. I'll link it in my Stan store below. But just kind of what I found is these are some of the things that the executor does. So they cover the funeral arrangements. They kind of take an inventory of all the things that you have, like your assets and your debts and things like that. To become an executor, you can be appointed by the court, which found out. And they also send notifications to notify your friends and family of that of your passing or to your bank or credit card companies. So they'll send the death certificate out to these different people, right? That's part of what they can do. They can manage your estate, right? So they take care of for your assets, all those different things. It's so much more involved than people think, right?
Yeah.
They have to do your final taxes. Even though you've passed away, you still got to do your taxes for that year, right? Like, you're never beating the tax man.
Yeah.
They're
Not
gonna
yet,
resolve
anyway.
right now, yeah. They're going to resolve all your debts, right? Like make sure your debts are paid off or, that you have debt forgiveness potentially, right? They take care of all of that. And then distributing all of your assets to your heirs, right? Like if you wanted your vehicle to go to somebody, I think that's something that they would take care of, right? So when you're appointing an executor, it's probably good to have the conversation with them than just putting it in your will because they're taking on a lot of responsibility. And so, for example, I have a client who's going through this process right now for a family member, and they're actually having to pay a lot of things out of pockets because your bills don't just stop right away, right? And they know that they're going to get that money back once everything is settled, but the person that's your executor like might have to have those kinds of financial resources. So there's just a lot to take in. And I know she's like, I feel like I have 4 jobs right now, right? Like just
100%,
her
yeah.
full-time jobs. They have 3 children. She's doing this as well for her family, and it's like it's a lot to take on. So just if you're gonna name somebody your executor, I think it's because it's a big emotional and a heavy workload as well. Just have that conversation, make sure that person is comfortable doing it, because you want to make sure that you're leaving your family in a good spot, essentially, as well, right? You can even hire somebody to be an executor. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that you know.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So the other thing that you look at is, who do you want to be the guardian for your children, right? And this is one thing that I think is really important is, if you don't have a will or a trust, like we were talking about this earlier, is if you don't have one of those things set up, is that the courts essentially will decide. I actually know of a situation where the child, but basically they were fighting for, I'm trying not to get into too much detail. Literally, like, two parties were fighting for custody, and the one had like kind of social assistance and the other one didn't, and eventually the other one kind of ran out of money, and then the child ended up going to the other home that maybe was less suited for them, but it was because they just
Well,
ran
because
out
of
of
the
money,
court,
and
yeah.
there was no will. So it's like, they kind of just go to who can kind of keep fighting the longest, some
Right.
cases, right?
Yeah.
So it can be really challenging. I know this is like a really heavy topic today. But it's important, and that's why
It
we're
is.
here, right? We're just
Yeah.
trying to keep things simple and just kind of throw out the basics for you.
Mhm.
Okay. And then basically there's a lot of different options as well inside of this this, I'm talking specifically about the will package that I'm used to using. I'm sure there's all different kinds of will packages with all different kinds of options, but this one, it says, like, you can put things like, I want all my assets to go to my spouse and my children. When my children turn this age, I want them to get this percentage, different things like that. Or, I'm unmarried, I want my assets to go to this person. They have all these different options. So if you're like, I don't really know where to start, it kind of walks you through it. It kind of keeps it pretty straightforward for you. And with Legalshield, I can only refer to them because that's who I'm familiar with, right? So, but you can call them. I know Jesse and I called them a couple of times, and we needed some questions answered, and I didn't feel rushed at all. When I was thinking about calling the lawyer, I'm like, they're going to be like, let's do this fast. Time is money. But
Yeah.
they honestly were on the phone with me for a while, really explaining things and making sure I felt comfortable. And so they were just had like great customer service that way. So you can actually talk to a lawyer if you have specific questions.
Mhm.
You can also have some money or different things go to charitable assets. I know that's something that's important to me, that I have as part of my life insurance and part of, like, in our will as well. So there's a lot of different options that you have there. It also covers any funeral arrangements. So I really like this one because when you're looking at funeral arrangements, it can be a really hard decision for your family. So I know, like, my mom has her plot picked out and everything. Like, she has paid for everything. She's had to deal with it a few times. She doesn't want us to have to deal with that,
Yeah.
right? So you can decide, I want a celebration of life. I just went to a beautiful celebration of life on the weekend. Or you can say, I want a traditional funeral. You can kind of outline what that looks like, right?
Mhm.
Just keep in mind that your will might be read after some of those things happen. So it's really good to talk with your family about that as well. And then the next thing is looking at, this is kind of like a list. I can't make it too interesting, but I'm trying, okay?
You're doing great.
So the next thing is looking at a power of attorney. So basically, a power of attorney, they make decisions for you, or they can handle things for you if you're not mentally capable. So if you're looking at property, for example, like if you own a home, or maybe you have rental properties, or whatever that looks like for you, they're going to be able to act on your behalf as if you were mentally capable, right? Doing those kinds of things. The only thing they can't do is obviously make changes to your will, right? So it's really good to pick somebody that you really trust. And you can have a first, second, or third power of attorney, right? You can have people working together jointly, or they can work independently. I know for me, I was like, I'm just gonna pick one person. We don't need like too many hands in the pot. That was just my mentality. But it obviously just depends on like what you want and what makes sense for your family.
Mhm.
So that's power of attorney for property. The next one is power of attorney for personal care. So who's going to be able to make decisions for you for treatments or your day-to-day care, right? If you're not don't have the mental capacity to do so, you want to make sure that again it's somebody you trust and potentially you've had this conversation with them. You'll be able to pick some options again that says I want this, not this in the will. But it's really good to kind of choose that person. And if you don't, how it works, it goes to your immediate family members. So it's kind of like in order. It would be your parents, your children, and then brothers and sisters, and then other next of kins after that. So if you're like, well, I want my brother and sister before my children, then you might want to put that in your will as your power of attorney, right? So those different things. So it's really good to just know who's going to be taking care of you. For example, like Jesse and I don't want children, right? So this was something that was really important when we had this conversation because we don't have kids that are gonna just automatically take care of us when we get old, right? I'm gonna like con my niece and nephew into it. You're gonna take care of me, right? So something just to think about. So it really the will covers so many different things. So your financial assets, physical assets, who's gonna take care of your taxes and your debts and divvying out the money, essentially, your power of attorney, who's gonna take responsibility if you don't have the mental capacity to do so, and who's going to take care of your children. Like these are some really important things, but I find that wills are always something that gets pushed off. I don't know why, but this year, like January, February, we did so many wills, and I don't know if it's just like new year, new me, like I'm going to get my stuff in order.
Mhm.
Well,
Probably
take
the
some
last
time.
couple of years has really changed people's perspective on things. Like I know it has for me. Like I haven't like to be completely honest, I haven't heard of so many people passing away of random things or random health issues
Yeah.
that have came up or this and that. And because it's all inundated in the news and everything, where like the last couple of years, death was just the forefront of everything. So it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense that people are like, oh shit, like I should probably have a will in place.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I think that's something that I talk to people about even when it comes to life insurance because it's like I know way more people than I'd like to admit that have passed away before they should have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure whoever like you listening knows somebody as well, whether it was medical or it was just like it
Yeah.
just like out of nowhere things happened, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think you're right, is there is a lot of that, and especially as we get older, we see it more,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a really good perspective,
And I
Laura.
feel
I like
like too,
that.
like when I was younger too, I was super naive, like thinking like, oh, it won't happen to me, you know? But now I'm like, it could happen.
Yeah.
I could walk across the road tomorrow and like it could happen, you know? And I'm totally at peace with it. But like it could happen, you know? Like
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
last thing I
People.
want is to have like everything kind of in the control of somebody that you don't even personally know. That's
Yeah,
just
like
like
if it goes to like
not
the
cool.
court, it goes to your state or like,
Yeah.
you get no say. Like you work your whole life to build this legacy, but then if you don't like tell people what you want done with it, it's for no reason,
Hmm.
right? It's or maybe not no reason, but it might not work out the way that you had planned,
Exactly.
essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
causes a lot more issues for your family as well, because then they're having to be like, oh, is this what they would want? Or maybe you have family members being like, no, that wanted this, no, she wanted that. It's like it can create a lot of family drama in that as well, which if you can avoid it, like give everybody a little bit more peace to just have all of this stuff.
Yeah. I've actually I know somebody again who passed away really young. She was in her early 30s, maybe. And that's kind of what happened is she was like just about to get married and when she had passed, like her parents and her partner were like arguing about all these decisions because like her parents wanted one thing and said, you know, she wanted this, and he's like, no, she would want this, and
Yeah.
it's uh, it's
Better
really
have it
challenging.
in
It can be really
writing and
challenging.
yeah,
Yeah, and just like make it easy for your family too. Like they're grieving as well. It's kind of like what we talked about with the life insurance is like your family's going through a really hard time emotionally. It's just like make it
yeah.
as easy as possible because they're already having to make 1,000 decisions. Like,
Mm,
how do I do X, Y, and Z without this person I was used to having around doing X, Y, and Z,
for
you
sure.
know?
And when we're in
Yeah.
those emotions too, like we're not thinking straight to make decisions either, which is not the best to be making decisions when you're in that place as well. But you kind of have to, I would assume, within a certain time period to get things kind of
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. And I imagine it's a lot of like fight or flight, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, I don't know. I know some people are really great at that. Like my sister is just so good in like tense situations. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. Where I'm like, wait, this, like, I'm like
Totally.
always second guessing myself, you know? Like some people have it, some people don't. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
skill, right? Like
Yeah.
it's, you know, that's probably like a self-limiting belief. All
Yeah.
right. Like
I'm hilarious though. I could be a paramedic, no problem. But when it comes to like choosing three things out of the grocery store that I have to choose from, I'm like, I can't do it.
you're like, there's too
Things
many
that
kinds
don't
of
matter, I'm like, I
band-aids.
can't do it. I'm like, somebody just like help me with this decision.
I know. Yeah. There's like too many options. So I'm vegetarian. This is totally off topic, but I'm
Okay.
vegetarian and I'm like, it's a gift in a way. Like when we go to restaurants, I'm like, option A or option B. Thank goodness. Because if
Totally.
I had
Saves so
tons of,
much like mental effort.
if I had a whole menu, like, give
Seriously,
me
I
an
know
hour.
that's
Like,
one of the worst things, going out for dinner and having to choose from everything.
first world problems, my word.
Totally.
Right. So, yeah, so I hope that helps in terms of, you know, what kind of is covered in the will. I'll give like a good little brief description on, you know, what our program looks like, because again, I can only speak to what I know. So we work with an amazing company called Legalshield. They've actually been around since 1976. So they've been doing this a while. It's kind of like a membership. So how it works is you have access to legal advice for free through the membership. The membership's $26 a month, so it's like really nice.
Mhm.
And you get sent the will package when you sign up for the membership. So the reason I said $150 in the beginning is because it typically takes a few months to kind of get it done. So I'm like, on average, some people are like, you know, I forgot about it or I just didn't get to it or it's like on the to-do list. It might take some more time. So I'm like, the faster you do it, the less it costs, right? So if you can get it done as fast as possible, obviously you're going to save a lot of money there. I have a client that's like, even if I don't do it for a year, like he's like, I'm still gonna save money than if I went directly to a lawyer. And you're getting it done for like from a lawyer, right? So like here I'm in Hamilton. We use Mills and Mills. They're in Toronto. But Legal Shield connects to all different kinds of lawyers in different areas. So it's a really amazing program, especially because you get access to any kind of legal advice. So it doesn't necessarily have to be surrounding wills. You'll see the link in my Stan store. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. But honestly, like the lawyers are so good. I am not a lawyer. I don't try to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. So yeah, but I think it was just once Jesse and I did our will, I it was just very eye-opening. And now I feel so good about it because I honestly don't even know what I put in my will, but I know that I made the best decisions at the time with the information I had. And I'm like, it's good enough,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I want, right? So, you know, we have to update our will right now. We had some changes going on. So we'll revisit everything and it is good to update, but it's like as long as you have something, I think it's better than having nothing. And really like $150, in my opinion, is just like it's
For sure.
nothing when it comes down to it, right? So
I feel like it
especially
gives
for
you like a peace of mind, like just knowing that that stuff's covered and you don't have to worry about it. Like, it just brings
yeah.
some safety to it.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's kind of like off your mind. That stress of like, oh, I really should do that. How often do you think like, oh, I really should, do this or do that? Or, like we hear this with life insurance too. Like I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm like, you just did it and crossed it off your list. You would like relieve all that stress of just having it on your list,
Mhm.
continuing to think about it.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
it's really interesting. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else that you want to add, Laura? I know you're kind of like going through the process right now of doing your will.
I don't think so, but I do have one question. Do you know
Yeah.
what the process is like if you did want to update it? Would you just say like get the membership back again and then you would then be able to update it?
Yeah, so that brings up a really good point. So what I did is I did my will and then I canceled the membership.
That's what
Right?
you would
Because I'm
want to do,
like,
right? Because it's not like you were going to be paying $25 until you die.
yeah, it just
Which
depends
is a
like if you're
great point
gonna
that we're mentioning that.
use like if you're gonna like use the service, it might be worth it.
Yeah.
So there's different options. But yeah, that's essentially what like we have to update ours, so I'm gonna like learn more about that process. But that's how I believe that it'll go is like you pay for the membership again, you get your will updated, and then you can cancel it again if you choose, kind of idea. So as far as I understand, we're gonna find out. So if I have any news, I'll let you know.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I think updating it, like I had a client that she did hers with a lawyer and they were gonna charge her like I think $1,000 or something just to update hers. So
Mhm.
she signed up with us. She's like, I'm just gonna do a brand new one because the latest will that you have is like the one that they'll take. So if you
Gotcha.
have one from like 10 years ago and then one from today, they'll look at today's.
Nice.
So yeah, hope that
Yeah,
answers that question.
it does. Yeah. No other questions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I hope everyone learned something today. If you do want to check out Prepaid Legal, like I said, I'll link the stand store below. It also has links for like mortgages and all kinds of other fun things. So if you're looking for anything finance, it's a good place to go. But I would say like just do some research about wills. Like we're here to educate, right? It's not advice. This is I can give you what I did and my thoughts, but do some research for yourself and figure out what's important for your family and kind of what makes the most sense for you, right? So I just want to thank everyone today for joining us and learning about wills. And if you do have any questions, obviously comment them below. We're more than happy. We love when we get some comments that we can, give you some feedback or answer any questions. Subscribe and follow as well if you're loving the journey. We have like I think 15 episodes all on different topics around finance. So it's been really amazing to put this all together. And if there's a topic that we haven't covered yet that you're interested in, let us know. I'd be more than happy to do that. Next, we're going to be talking all about pensions and kind of how to get the most out of your pension. So if you had a pension in the past, or if you have a pension currently, or looking to get a position with a pension, this one will be for you. So thank you again for joining us on the Heart Centered Money Conversations. Feel into your heart around your finances, and we'll see you next time. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone. Thanks so much, Kristen.
Thanks. Bye.